Welcome back to the Bounce Media Network. It's your host, the one and only MC, Mr. J Ski, coming to you live and direct. Before we get started, do me a favor, go ahead and turn on that bell notification, like the video, share the video, and most importantly, hype the video if that feature is still available to you. All right, let's get into it. Today, I'm going to come to you guys with some food for thought. All right. And basically, I want to go over some details with you that I recently uncovered as I was checking out the internet, and I came across a graphic from CDS Sports that highlighted the Fever's win-loss record depending upon whether Caitlin Clark or Kelsey Mitchell was the team's leading scorer for that particular game. All right. I thought that was very interesting, so I decided to examine the data myself, and immediately it validated something that I and many others have been saying since the beginning of time. All right. The Indiana Fever are simply a better basketball team when Caitlin Clark is allowed to be Caitlin Clark. All right. When she's running the offense. All right. I want to go further into this analysis because when I first looked at the numbers, whenever Caitlin Clark led the Indiana Fever in scoring, her record was 11-3. When Kelsey Mitchell led the Indiana Fever in scoring, her record was 11-10. All right, interesting, right? But then the Chicago game happened, and I couldn't have asked for a better basketball game to demonstrate exactly what it is I'm talking about. Caitlin Clark went out there and gave Chicago 37 points and 10 assists. All right. Within that game, she hit 8 career three-pointers in one single game, 8 of 12 to be exact. All right. Slightly over 67%. All right. Another historic 30 and 10 performance from CC22, and the Indiana Fever won the basketball game 113-90. All right. Beating the Chicago Sky. So now I have to update the board. All right. So when Caitlin Clark leads the Indiana Fever in scoring, her record is 12-3. That's an 80% winning percentage. When Kelsey Mitchell leads the Indiana Fever in scoring, her record is 11-10, slightly over 52%. So you're asking me why? Why is that? All right. This is where it gets interesting, because this isn't a conversation about whether Caitlin should score and Kelsey shouldn't. All right. That doesn't even make sense. And I'm going to prove it to you with the Chicago game. All right. While Caitlin Clark was scoring 37 points, Kelsey Mitchell scored 30 points as well. All right. Kelsey also hit 6 of her 9 threes, essentially the same three-point percentage as Caitlin Clark in the same game. All right. She finished with 30 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, and she was a plus 28 in that particular game. Caitlin Clark was a plus 26. All right. Only 2-point differential for the plus and minus. So apparently Caitlin Clark can lead this team in scoring, and Kelsey Mitchell can still eat. All right. That's the point, right? Everybody eats. This isn't about taking food off of Kelsey's plate so Caitlin can have more points. There's enough food for everybody within this offense if it's ran the right way. All right. Lexi Hull had 14 points. Michaela Timpson had 12 points and 9 rebounds, almost a second double-double for her. All right. KK was a plus 24 in that particular game. Aaliyah Boston didn't even play in this game, so that even makes it more interesting to me. All right. And Indiana still scored 113 points. Now, there is a narrative that the Indiana Fever's offense runs better when Aaliyah Boston isn't on the floor. I'll make that argument in another episode. But for this one, we're going to keep it strictly to the win-loss ratio. All right. 113 points. That's an insane offense. All right. So when I say Caitlin Clark needs to be the number one option, I'm not saying everybody else needs to disappear. I'm saying the exact opposite. Put Caitlin Clark at the top of the offense and watch how many people appear. Watch how many people show up. All right. Players. All right. Here's the fundamental difference of it all. Caitlin Clark isn't simply a scorer. She's the absolute best point guard. All right. In the WNBA, in my opinion. All right. But I can prove that also. She's Indiana's primary playmaker, the Indiana Fever's primary playmaker, the offensive engine. So when Caitlin becomes aggressive enough to lead Indiana in scoring, the defense has a problem. All right. They have a serious problem because they can't just worry about her points. Caitlin comes downhill. Somebody has to help. She gets into the paint. Somebody has to rotate. If she starts bombing threes from the parking lot, somebody has to meet her damn near at half court. And every additional foot you extend, that defense creates another foot of space somewhere else. All right. That's where Kelsey Mitchell lives. That's where Lexi Hull lives. That's where your big gets an opportunity underneath the basket. That's where cutters suddenly have lanes. All right. So while Caitlin is trying to score, she's still looking for everybody else. That's the important part, right? That's the part that matters. Against Chicago, she scored 37 points and still gave you 10 assists. All right. Think about that. She wasn't choosing between being a scorer and being a point guard. She was being both at the same time. All right. And when Caitlin Clark is both, yeah, good luck. Good luck. All right. But she had 5 turnovers. Yeah, she did. 5 turnovers. Okay. Who cares? Seriously, we're not even going to discuss that again. She gave you 37 and 10. 8 threes was a plus 26. All right. Her backcourt partner scored 30. All right. 2 more teammates scored in double figures. Indiana scored 113 points. They won by 23. And somebody's going to look at all of that and say, yeah, but Caitlin had 5 turnovers. Okay. Put them on the receipt. I'll pay for them. All right. Would I rather have the record be 37 and 10 with 2 turnovers? Of course, who wouldn't? But smart people don't evaluate turnovers in a vacuum. I'm evaluating what Indiana receives in exchange for giving Caitlin Clark the basketball and allowing her to create. All right. Against Chicago, they received an avalanche. All right. Offensively. So let's talk about Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell is an elite scorer. I've said it many times over. All right. Full stop, period. The woman can score. She's been doing it for 8 seasons. She can hoop. Hell, she can shoot her ass off. All right. She can create her own shot. She can attack. She can give you 20, sometimes 25, and sometimes 30 plus. We just watched her score 30 while Caitlin scored 37. My problem has never been with Kelsey Mitchell scoring. All right. My problem is when the Fever offense becomes organized around get Kelsey Mitchell a basket. All right. We can't operate that way because Kelsey Mitchell scoring and the Indiana Fever running good offense are not automatically the same thing. We just watched this. Dallas, Kelsey Mitchell, 36 points. Indiana, lost. New York, Kelsey Mitchell, 25 points. Indiana, lost. And I'm not blaming those losses on Kelsey because she happened to lead the team in scoring. That's not what these numbers are about. All right. That's not what I'm trying to prove. What I'm asking is what happens to the offense in those games? We've watched the ball stick. We've seen movement disappear. I've watched Aaliyah Boston become small and try to play point forward. All right. We've seen Caitlin give up the basketball and essentially disappear from the possession. And I've watched everybody else stand around waiting for Kelsey Mitchell to create something. And here's what makes it deceptive. Kelsey still scored. All right. She might still score. All right. That's what she does. She might get 25, 30, or 36. And afterward, you look at the box score and say, Kelsey did her job. She had a good game. Okay, slow down. But did the offense do its job? What happened with the rest of the team? Did the team win? Because those are different questions that must be addressed. All right. We can't leave those on the table. Okay. So that's why Chicago matters a lot, because this conversation, it basically leads you to the fact that Caitlin Clark led with 37 points. All right. And Kelsey didn't disappear. She got you 30. All right. Lexi didn't disappear. She got you 14. Timpson didn't disappear. She gets 12. And Caitlin still distributes 10 assists. That's what I've been trying to explain this entire time on this channel. All right. Caitlin Clark doesn't need Kelsey Mitchell's points. She needs her proper position within the offense. Kelsey can still score 30 points. All right. Hell, if she's shooting 6 of 9 from 3, keep shooting, but let those opportunities exist inside an offense being manipulated by the player who can create for herself and everybody around her. That's when Indiana becomes the most dangerous. That's when you don't have to choose between Caitlin or Kelsey. Stephanie White, you get Caitlin and Kelsey together, the best backcourt in the league. All right. Then you got Lexi. And then you got Timpson and whoever else wants to join the party. All right. This is why I keep talking about the hierarchy of this offense. You don't have to move Caitlin down the pyramid to elevate Kelsey Mitchell. That's a mistake. All right. Caitlin belongs at the peak, not because she's entitled to most shots, not because she's the biggest name, and not because everybody else needs to sacrifice their game for Caitlin Clark. She belongs there because she's the player most capable of connecting every level underneath her. All right. If you put Kelsey underneath that, Kelsey can still give you 30. We just watched it. Put your big underneath that. Now you've got the 2-man game. Put your shooters around that. They're getting looks. All right. The pyramid doesn't diminish anybody. It gives everybody a position. All right. The problem starts when Stephanie White decides to start moving the stones around. All right. One night Caitlin is at the top. Next night Kelsey's at the top. Then Caitlin's second. Sometimes she's third. And suddenly nobody seems to know exactly what the offense is supposed to be. You don't have to keep rebuilding the pyramid, Pharaoh White. Okay. The peak shouldn't move ever. It should never move. All right. So let's go back to where we all started. All right. When Kelsey Mitchell leads Indiana in scoring, her record's 11-10. When Caitlin Clark leads Indiana in scoring, her record is 12-3. That statistic doesn't explain every one of those basketball games. All right. We have different opponents, different lineups, different circumstances. Basketball isn't that simple. All right. But 12-3 versus 11-10 is a large enough discrepancy that makes it all impossible for us to ignore. All right. Especially when what we're watching on the basketball court keeps pointing us toward the same conclusion. Caitlin Clark leading this team in scoring does not mean Indiana becomes a one-player offense. In fact, it can mean the exact opposite, because CC can score 37 points and still spend the entire night asking, who else wants some? All right. Kelsey, Lexi, Timpson, anybody else? That's what makes her different. All right. She's not just Indiana's leading scorer when she's cooking. She's still the point guard. She's still manipulating the defense. She's still distributing the basketball. She's still creating opportunities. All right. And everybody else's offense can exist inside hers. All right. Within hers. Nobody has to shrink. Nobody has to disappear. Nobody has to sacrifice. Indiana simply has to put its offense in the hands of the person most capable of making the entire thing work. The offense, that is. All right. And after what we just watched against Chicago, I think we're starting to get a pretty good idea why. All right. So that's it. I just wanted to touch bases on that, give you guys some food for thought in case you have not come across that thought on your own. Like I said, I originally saw the graphic on CDS Sports, so you can check him out. Check out his channel. He does good work as well. So that's it. Like the video, share the video, hype the video, leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm Mr. J Ski as always, and this has been another episode of The Bounce.